Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at rolling bass lines, what they are and how you can make yours better. I'm going to introduce the basic fundamentals and then incrementally add more advanced techniques so you can really kind of flesh them out and make them your own. This is how the pros do it. Make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to show you the #1 key trick to make it all work in your tracks. If you like the track that's playing in the background, it's one of mine and it's out now. There's a link in the description to Beatport and Spotify where you can go and check it out. Your support is always much appreciated. And if you want to grab the project files from this video, you can do so, see all the MIDI clips, all the sounds, everything in more detail. There's a link in the description to Patreon. It's one of the best ways that you can support the channel and make sure I keep bringing you these videos on the regular. Now let's get into Ableton and make some rolling bass lines. Alright guys, here we are inside Ableton and we're going to go through in detail how to do rolling bass lines. We're going to start at the most basic version of it and get more and more detailed. And as I said in the intro, make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to give you the secret that brings it all together. Now let's get into it. So I've just got a really simple beat here. A kick, clap, hat, shakers, and a kind of couple of paddy things for atmosphere, just to set the mood. Now I will add in a top loop here. I'm going to go into more detail with this later, but this is just a very basic top loop, just to kind of fill out the drums a little bit. All those samples, by the way, are from Underground Shades of House Volume 2, my sample pack on House of Loop. Now let's have a look at this bass line. The basic foundation of a rolling bass line is going to be 16th notes. In terms of the sound design, I've kept it pretty simple. Coming from Diva here, I've just modified a preset that I use a lot. It's very simple here. I've got 3 saw waves at different octaves, and I've just kind of balanced those. The fundamental kind of main body of the sound is coming from this middle oscillator. Then we've got a bit of a sub note and an octave higher, which is just giving it a bit more kind of character. We've got a short plucky envelope, and we need to set this to mono. So with our basic 16th note rolling bass line, it's going to sound like this. I'll take off this kickstart. You can see I took off the kickstart, which is adding sidechain compression. Now, in modern electronic music, we're pretty much always going to use sidechain compression on our bass because the kick is going to be very loud and we need to push that bass out of the way. Otherwise, we're going to get conflicting energy in our sub bass, in our low end. So I'm ducking this at 100% and you can see what's going to happen here. This volume envelope is going to push the volume of the bass down. And now we're going to get more of this rolling feel. So essentially, like the first note there is almost gone, then we're kind of creating a ghost note and we've got the last 2 notes at pretty much full power. We could always bring this back a bit. Alternatively, we could use this filter, which is just going to apply that sidechain below a certain frequency. So this can be really helpful. It's probably, we're not going to get into that too much detail in this tutorial. There you can get the more driving vibe from the no sidechain version, but for this we're going to use sidechain. So that's it. To recreate that, we're in the key of E and we're just putting a note on every 16th. If you right click here, you can set your grid to 16th notes. You might have it set at 8th notes, for example. So the next variation is going to be removing some of the notes. So basically, this can really help to allow you to push the bass line a bit louder. It also creates a slightly different feel. See, we've still got the kind of ghost note remnants of that first note, whereas this creates a bit more impact. It also obviously creates a bit more space for the kick. So in the context, it's going to sound very similar, but it's a bit more driving. If we turn down the sidechain now, so it allows us to kind of push that bass a bit more. It does mean that we're going to have a lot of bass in the track. So the next kind of variation of that is going to be to just mute 2 of these notes instead of 1. So we're basically muting the first 2 16ths, playing the next 2. It's going to sound like this. So it's kind of got a familiar, similar vibe, but it's not quite as intense and driving. So the next thing that we can do, the kind of next level up, is to add velocity to our bass line. The velocity by default won't do anything unless you have your synth set up properly. So we've got our synth here. There's no velocity on the amplification envelope and there's no velocity on the filter envelope. So this is the same as this. But when we introduce velocity to the amplification envelope, now the louder notes, or the notes with more velocity, are going to be louder. The notes with less velocity are going to be quieter. I can demonstrate this on the output here. If I turn this up even further, I can bring this sustain down a bit, and it's probably going to show that even more. To accentuate that further, we can use the velocity to filter envelope. So now we're using the velocity information from this MIDI to make this note, this note, this note brighter, this note less bright, these notes kind of medium brightness, right? So it creates more texture and depth in the pattern. So we're able to like accentuate certain notes. If we compare that to our first one, more robotic feeling. It's got more of a drive, more of a roll. I've got a couple of other variations. In this one, we're kind of adding velocity here. So it's got a different pattern, but it's swelling upwards for this half of the bar, and then swelling up again on this part of the bar. So it emphasizes this end of the bar, kind of getting this rolling feeling with a sweep at the end. And of course we can emphasize that by adding more filter envelope. Or make it more subtle. And of course you don't have to have the amplification and the filter velocity. You can have one or the other, or a combination of both. Now I've got one more pattern here, which we're basically emphasizing a pretty common bass line pattern within this 16th note rolling bass line. So the bass pattern that I'm emphasizing would be this, which is very common in progressive house or deep house, Afro House, Melodic House. Very familiar. So with this one, we get like the feel of the rolling bass line with the emphasis of this kind of more groovy bass. So that's going to be our kind of basic building blocks of the rolling bass line. Okay, so as we move up a level to medium complexity, the first thing that we're going to look at is changing notes. The most simple way of doing this is jumping an octave, as it's always going to sound good, and it's really going to enhance the bounce and the groove of this type of bass line. Whereas if we compare that to our basic one, it's just got a bit more movement in it. I could accentuate this by bringing it up another octave. Doesn't sound as good. Or bringing this down an octave. Generally one is the sweet spot, but you can experiment. We can of course invert this so that the lower notes are playing here and the higher notes are playing here, which is going to give us a different kind of bounce. Okay. Kind of more driving. This one feels a little bit more uplifting. And then of course we could just do other notes. So I'm basically using the notes that are up an octave to do a similar bass line to what I showed you here. So we've still got that rolling bass line, but with a bit more interest, and it just gives a little more subtle groove as we're emphasizing different notes. So it's kind of like a groove within a groove. The next common step is going to be to introduce chord changes. Basically have our bass line playing a chord progression. And this can go over the course of 1 bar, 2 bars, multiple bars. So in this first example, we've basically got it changing every beat or every quarter of a bar. Although this at the end of the bar and this part at the front of the bar are playing the same note. Because of the placement, it feels like it's kind of rolling more. So it kind of adds a whole nother dimension of interest. Starts to make it feel a bit more kind of spacey, techno-y kind of thing. Now this is another variation where we're going over 2 bars. So you can kind of use any chord progression that you could come up with, and this would be generally playing the bass note of each of those chords, which helps to reinforce the chord progression. A really common thing in like progressive house is to have those chords. Maybe you would write a chord progression and then you would kind of turn it off and just have the bass of your like bass synth doing that. So there aren't actually like leads or big strings or something doing the chord progression. It's basically implied by the bass line. You could, a way to write that though, could be using strings or piano or something like that, and then you just recreate it with the bass note in the bass section, either with a sustained bass or a rolling bass, like in this case. Now we've got another version, which is going over 4 bars. So this is like a really common way to use this type of bass line in progressive house. Think artists like Christian Smith, Ezekiel Reyes, lots of people really. But you're going to get this type of thing very frequently. It might often start out at the beginning of the track, just holding the root note, and then the chord progression will be introduced with the bass line. Now I've got a kind of what I've called 2.5, basically a combination of 1 and 2. So we've got key changes here going over 2 octaves. So this is actually pretty simple, right? It's basically this, but we're just jumping octaves every 16th note. Gives it such a different feel and so much more kind of interesting in depth. It does make it feel a bit more fun, a bit more lighthearted. So obviously not each of these ideas is going to work for every track, but you can use them to get the outcome that you want. So the next variation is basically starting to create a melody with your bass. So this is like a very simple version where we're holding the 16th, or a melody or a motif, let's say. So we're doing the 16th and then we're just going up at the end. So it's slightly different to the chord progression, especially as it advances, you'll see. So we've got just a few different variations here of Now this one's getting a little bit more detailed. I believe this is one I took from a Collective States track. Starting to sound like something familiar, I bet. And this one, I believe, is from a Denox and Stereo Underground track. Right, so we've got that kind of motif. It's like an advancement or a combination of this first variation using the octaves and then this variation using the chord changes, but we're kind of using it to create like a melody. Here's another version which will definitely start to sound familiar, I think. So good, so good, so good. Yeah, it's the pattern from Donna Summer, I Feel Love, right? That is the next more advanced stage, or the first part of the advanced stage is going to be to take this motif and combine it with a chord progression. This here, it's in a different key, but it's basically I Feel Love. Very nice. Obviously, I Feel Love is a little bit different. It's actually created with 8th notes, and then the second 16th is using a delay, which is panned wide. It was also created with a Moog modular. So yeah, it's a bit different to this, but that's basically what's happening in it. This is like almost a simplified version of it, let's say, and transposed to E minor, as everything here is in E minor. So I Feel Love, amazing, timeless song, and you can just feel how that changes it becomes like a song. There's emotion there. It's building. You're really getting the kind of grooviness and the memorability of this motif combined with the emotion of the rising chord progression. Absolutely magic song. Okay, so the next version is going to be basically we're using the bass as a sub bass, and it's not playing a 16th note rolling bass line. I'm going to bring this filter down a bit. So what does that have to do with rolling basses, Dilby? Well, let me explain. In this case, we're going to use this as the sub, but we're introducing a mid-bass layer doing the rolling bass. So this is what this is going to sound like. We could try it down an octave to get a different feel. And together. Because we're using this as a mid-bass layer, we can probably add a bit more interest using some effects. So I'm going to send it to some reverb and delay. We could use our trick from before, the velocity. So I'm going to use this, add some random, to just randomize the velocity a bit. And then let's set up our synth. We'll put a little bit on the velocity envelope and a lot on the filter envelope. We're going to bring down the filter a bit. So you can hear there we're starting to introduce this kind of randomized texture. Bring this all the way up. But this is our sub. If we go to the master here, put an EQ, filter out everything. You can still hear our sub is what's driving the low end, right? This could probably be a bit louder. But we're getting that rolling bass vibe. Or if we want more drive, we can take that velocity randomization away. Now we've got an advancement of this, which is to introduce the octave jumps. This one might benefit from being down an octave. And then we could further develop that by using any of these previous methods. If you add too much complexity to too many layers, it's going to start to get a bit confusing. So you want to decide what's your kind of driving force, and then what's the thing that's adding detail or complexity. So for our next advanced example, this is going to be something that's very common in modern progressive house. We've got our rolling bass. Okay, it's just the basic one, version 1. Let's get a bit more filter envelope in there. Now we're going to use this additional layer. I've used an FM pluck in this case. The reason why is because it's very different. It sounds very like completely removed from this. So we're going to be able to hear the two over the top of each other. They're going to allow each other to still kind of remain audible, but the sounds kind of work really well together. Let's see what I'm talking about. So this could kind of be a bass line on its own, right? But it's this bass, mid-bass FM pluck, right? So I'm sure you've heard stuff like this in modern progressive house, right? And it may not even be this loud, it might be more subtle. Right, so you could kind of make as much variation or change as you like, but the point is to have something that's really driving here and then something that's modifying it and making it more groovy and adding a whole nother layer of depth and interest. If we try to combine these three, it's probably going to sound too much, which is going to demonstrate my point from before. See, it just kind of sounds like over the top. It's hard for my ears to know what to focus on. But this could also work with some kind of octave jump. Because this pattern is more predictable, it gives more space for this FM layer, which is more random or more varied, but definitely less predictable. Okay, I mentioned at the start that I was going to give you the key of what's going to bring this all together, right? And that is the context of the other things around your rolling bass. So we can go to our very simple initial basic version. And we've got this very straight beat, right? And everything feels very straight. But if I do something as simple as changing some of these top loops to different drums, the idea is just introducing different drums that have a bit more groove and a bit more variation, emphasizing different notes, you can see that that really changes the way the bass feels. So the bass is remaining very driving and robotic, but the drums are more groovy, which makes the overall track feel more groovy. We're using this double clap here to emphasize the end of the bar. This one, we're also using some double claps and a few more groovy hats. So within that drum loop, there's a bit more push and pull, just giving the track a bit more push and pull. You can then combine that with some of these other ideas. But again, as the more complex your melodic pattern in your bass, almost the less complex you want your drums to be. So you can hear there's like a lot more percussive detail in that loop, and it's making the groove feel a lot more filled out. I particularly like this one, so we're just going to keep that one. Now, the next thing that's going to influence it is the other kind of melodic elements, right? Of course, but I want to demonstrate that. We've got this stab here. So that's kind of adding a bit more interest, making it not feel as repetitive, because we've got a new pattern that's bringing attention away from the repetitive nature of the bass and extending this loop. We've got this pluck here. So we're using this to kind of modify the bass by almost accentuating some of the different notes, right? So this would be like a groovy bass line, but we've got the driving rolling bass with this pluck over the top. So it really helps to add some groove to that very straight bass. This is actually a pattern I've used in a lot of tracks. Is one of my favorites, I would say. To have like a more driving bass line and then adding some groove with a mid-bass type of element. Right, so it's not just this by itself that's adding the groove, it's the kind of interaction with the rolling bass line that adds the groove. The two things are working together. Now I've got another example with a more high frequency pluck element. This MIDI pattern is going to really add some more drive to the bass line. So it kind of gives it even more forward motion, right? Whereas this version, which is more of a polyrhythm, is going to kind of slow it down a little bit and make it feel a lot more groovy and a lot less repetitive, because we've got an element here that's not going over such a clearly robotic loop. Also another thing that's used a lot in progressive house. I think Ezekiel Rias uses this a lot in some of his recent tracks on Injuna Deep. It might be like a pluck like this, or a percussive sound, something like that. Clave, a wood block. But the point there is that the elements around it give context to that rolling bass. One further thing, we've got these kind of like house drums, right? What if we take those away? Let's go back to the I Feel Love example. Very groovy, very cool, but it still has this house, techno, progressive, melodic house, whatever vibe to it because of the drums. So if I turn those drums off and add these disco drums in, it sounds more like a disco track, right? A different disco drum loop. A different bass, just our basic one. Maybe a little too robotic, but let's try one of these octave variations or something. Or maybe a chord progression. So there, I think that proves the point that the context of what is around the bass is going to make so much difference in how it appears, how it feels, and how the listener reacts to it. As always, if you want to grab this project, get these MIDI patterns so you can kind of use them in your project, or you can get in there and have a little bit more of a look at them. It's a lot to go through, but you can download that from Patreon. There's a link in the description, and that's one of the best ways you can support the channel. So get over there, check those out, and enjoy. There's a lot more stuff to dig into in there as well. Alright guys, there you go. That's Rolling Basslines done and dusted. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. How does that work out for you? Have you got any more tips to add for the community? And let me know, what other videos do you want to see? If you're looking for more music production tutorials, then check out this video. YouTube thinks you're going to like it, and so do I. That's it from me. Catch you next time. Peace.